Welcome to the season premiere of Stick to Sports. I'm Ben Diamond.
And I'm Brian Burrows. Today we take a look at Week 4 of the NFL season and preview the upcoming MLB playoffs.
Roll it. The Buffalo Bills defeated the Miami Dolphins in a stunning display of offense, 48-20. The Bills have been white hot since their Week 1 loss to the Jets, scoring 37 or more points in each of their last 3 games. Josh Allen was locked in, completing 21 of his 25 passes for 320 yards and 4 touchdowns. Stephon Diggs was the main recipient, catching 3 touchdowns on 120 yards. After a rough start, the Bills defeated a Dolphins team that was only 1 week removed from a 70-point performance. Is this the Bills team fans have been waiting for, Brian?
Yes, this is absolutely the Bills team that the fans have been waiting for. Josh Allen has looked so good since that Week 1 performance. Wild Week 1 threw the 3 picks. Since then, 1 pick and 8 touchdowns, and then another 2 rushing touchdowns on the ground. He has been so much more composed in the pocket, much more controlled and efficient on the field. And then Stephon Diggs looked practically impossible. I mean, what was this play? You see it right here. He's just spinning away from defenders everywhere and then running all the way for the touchdown. And then the defense has also stepped up. I mean, the Dolphins' offense is incredible, and they sacked 2 of 4 times. They picked him off once. It's been an incredible turnaround since that Week 1 for the Bills, and the fans, I think, got to be loving it.
It really has been, and you see it. We saw it here. We see it in the game as well. But Devon Achane, once again, his second straight week, absolutely tearing it up on the ground, and he really cooked the Bills defense, but it was the receivers that were held in check by that Bills defense. Both Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle held to a combined 7 receptions in total, and also Tua was not as efficient in the air either. He was really, really good against the Broncos, but this week against the Bills, certainly not there as he was in the past.
The Denver Broncos were down 28-7 in the third quarter to the Chicago Bears. The Broncos went on back-to-back scoring drives and then returned to fumble for a touchdown to tie the game at 28. After another defensive hold, the Broncos drove into field goal range and took the lead and eventually won the game 38-21. Justin Fields had one of the best games of his career, throwing for 335 yards and 4 touchdowns. Ben, should the Broncos have hope from this game, or was this a poor performance?
I think for sure the Broncos should have hope from this game. I mean, it's not easy to come back down in a deficit that they were in. But Russell Wilson, with his veteran experience and the ability to limit mistakes on offense, 21 for 28 passing, 223 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's the second straight performance from Wilson that we've seen, kind of the Wilson of old. I mentioned to you last week as well, kind of creating the opportunities that we used to see when he was on the Seahawks. But right now, the defense and the offense aren't on the same page, and we're kind of seeing right now, last year the defense was kind of holding them in games. Right now it's the offense. So we'll see going forward if the Broncos defense can kind of kick it into gear. But right now, it's the offense giving them wins.
Yeah, I would say the defense looks terrible. That Bears offense did nothing for the first couple weeks of the season, and then they do that. Fields hadn't looked good. He throws for 335 yards. Khalil Herbert didn't have more than 35 rushing yards in a game the first 3 weeks. He goes for over 100. Their defense needs to figure out what they're doing. The fact that the Broncos didn't go over 100 rushing yards and Russ didn't pass for more than 250 is still very concerning.
Yeah, I completely agree. Moving over to the NFC East, the Philadelphia Eagles barely came away with a 34-31 victory after Sam Howell led the Commanders on a touchdown drive in the final seconds of the fourth quarter. A.J. Brown had himself a day, collecting 175 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. The Commanders, on the other hand, had a great rebound game after a poor showing against the Bills last week. Does this game say more about the 2023 Eagles or the Commanders?
I would say this says a lot more about the Eagles. I know that they're 4-0 and the record is the only thing that matters, but it is a very concerning 4-0. They're getting lucky. The defense needs to be playing a lot better. I'm not sure what happened to that championship defense from last year. I mean, that last drive at the end of the game should not have happened. They got lucky that McLaurin there stepped on the defender's foot in overtime. The offense looks good for the Eagles, but the defense, I don't know where it's went. They didn't pick off Howell, who threw 4 interceptions to the Bills just the week before. And it's helping the Eagles have a cupcake schedule right now until after their bye, but they're definitely getting very lucky, and the Eagles need to turn things around despite being 4-0. It's a weird thing to say.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, something that I took note of when looking at this game, watching the game, the Eagles were unable to establish their run game. And it's very clear when you look at DeAndre Swift's stats in this game, only averaging 4 yards per carry, which is way under the league average, and in total 14 carries for 56 yards. So not exactly what the Eagles are looking for from their run game. But then again, the Commanders, a very impressive bounce back from Sam Howell, who, as we mentioned, threw 4 interceptions last week. We'll look to see if they can continue that upward trend in Washington.
The Kansas City Chiefs barely held off the New York Jets 23-20 on Sunday Night Football. Patrick Mahomes had a rough day, passing for just 203 yards and 2 interceptions. Zach Wilson, on the other hand, had one of the best games of his career, throwing for 245 yards and 2 touchdowns and no interceptions. Wilson fumbled on the Jets' last drive of the game, and then Mahomes drove the Chiefs into touchdown range before sliding just before the end zone to ice the game. Ben, should Jets fans be optimistic about Wilson's performance, or is this a one-off?
I think they absolutely should be more optimistic through this game. And I think this performance from Zach Wilson will raise eyebrows around the league, not just with Jets fans. Because for a young quarterback who's been doubted since he's been drafted and hasn't played great to start the season, to come back from a 17-0 deficit in the second half against the reigning Super Bowl champions, I think that's probably super impressive in my eyes, and I'm sure a lot of people agree. But the defense, once again, really keeping them in this game. And that's going to be so important, because if Zach Wilson can get it going and play like he did last night, then I think that tandem between the offense and the defense will continue to grow. And I think we'll see the Jets that Jets fans have been looking forward to, that they would have had with Aaron Rodgers, but now with Zach Wilson as their QB1.
I'm going to say the exact opposite. I think this is a one-off from Zach Wilson. I think he's shown flashes like this in the past. This time he just put it together for an entire game. I think he's going to regress again next game. I just don't think he has the tools. Luckily, though, he has the Broncos defense, which we already talked about, had really bad defense. So there's a chance that he puts back-to-back weeks together and comes out with some confidence. They also need more help from Breece Hall. Having a good running game will help take some pressure off of Wilson. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue our talk about Week 4 of the NFL season and get into some MLB playoffs here on WTOP 10.
Hey there, I'm Al Roker, class of 76. Yes, way back in 76. Back when the earth was cooling. You're watching WTOP.
The Kind of Late Show with Chloe and Anna. Like licorice, Twizzlers, absolutely nasty. The thought of turkey is just nauseating.
I think you're wrong, is what I think.
You think I'm wrong a lot of time.
I do think you're wrong a lot.
When you look at the number of disasters in the U.S., chances are every area will deal with some kind of emergency in the next decade. And between school, sports, and social lives, chances are you won't be with your kids when it happens. Will they know what to do? Ready.gov/kids has the educational tools and information to make the conversation easy. When the time comes, chances are they'll feel prepared, not scared. So talk with your family today.
Put the keys down, Kevin.
But I'm gonna drive home.
There are several warning signs present that you shouldn't be driving.
I guess I have really been looking for love in this dating app. Yep, I'm definitely gonna call a ride home.
Welcome back to Stick to Sports. The Dallas Cowboys rolled over the New England Patriots, defeating them 38-3 after a crushing loss at the hands of the Arizona Cardinals in Week 3. The Cowboys came out with a vengeance, handing the Patriots and Bill Belichick their worst loss point-wise since he joined the team. What does this say about the Cowboys this season?
the Cowboys defense is going to carry them super far. I'm going at least NFC Championship game, potentially even Super Bowl. Their defense is playing out of their mind. They have been for weeks. Dan Quinn, I believe, should be a head coach again next year. I know he's got really good personnel with the Cowboys. Micah Parsons is so good. DeMarcus Lawrence is still there. But his scheming is so good. The way the players play in the system are so good. And I think as long as Dak can figure things out and take a half step forward, this team's going to go so far this year.
I agree, and I think that the red zone offense needs to improve for the Cowboys, and that will be the determining factor in whether or not this defense can really take them to the next level. But I think the injuries to defensive pillars for the Patriots in this game, Christian Gonzalez and Matthew Judon, were a huge factor in why the score was so high for the Cowboys. But then again, this Cowboys offense finally trying to put it together, but the defense really played a huge role in this game.
The LA Rams held a 23-0 lead just after halftime against the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts would go on to score 23 unanswered points, 2 passing touchdowns and 1 rushing touchdown from Anthony Richardson. LA got the ball to start overtime and drove down the field and scored the game winner. Ben, do you think the Rams are going to make the playoffs this year?
I actually do think they have a shot. We have yet to see Cooper Kupp enter a game for the Rams so far this season, and yet Puka Nacua and Kyron Williams, 2 players who didn't really have weren't really known coming into the season, but then Cam Akers is traded to Minnesota. Cooper Kupp goes out in the preseason, and now these 2 guys are becoming X factors that you can only get excited for when a guy like Cooper Kupp returns to that offense. But right now, these close games and in a stacked NFC West, it could get a little scary for the Rams.
Yeah, I would say Stafford's looking like 2021 Super Bowl Stafford all over again. When Kupp comes back, the combo of him and Nacua are going to be top 10 duo in the NFL. But I still don't think they're going to make the playoffs just because their schedule is pretty tough.
Yeah, I agree. It is a tough schedule. Moving over to the other Los Angeles team, the Los Angeles Chargers held off a late Raiders comeback to win 24-17 on the back of a 6-sack game from Khalil Mack. The Chargers had a strong first half, but were held scoreless in the second. The defense was able to keep the Raiders at bay. But Brian, is this another head-scratcher from the Chargers?
Yeah, this is definitely another head-scratcher from the Chargers. This team has so much talent on offense, on defense. I know they lost Mike Williams, but Josh Palmer steps right in. The defense, J.C. Jackson, Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, to just name a few. So much talent, and this team is just terribly coached. Brandon Staley needs to be out. I think if Jimmy G was playing this game, not Aiden O'Connell, the Raiders probably win this game. I mean, how does Aiden O'Connell throw for 238 yards and Herbert throws for just 167?
Yeah, Justin Herbert was completely ineffective in the second half, and that certainly did not help his case whatsoever. But this game was fully dictated by the defense on both sides. A late interception by the Chargers, as seen right there, iced the game and kept the score 24-17. But then again, Austin Eckler also was not in this game for the Chargers, so maybe they could have run up the score a little bit more if he was playing in this game.
The San Francisco 49ers continued their early season dominance, strolling past the Cardinals 35-16. Christian McCaffrey had a career day, rushing for 3 touchdowns and catching 1 more. McCaffrey broke Jerry Rice's franchise record with a touchdown in his 13th straight game. Ben, if the season ended today, should McCaffrey win the MVP award?
You know, McCaffrey's been absolutely sensational to start this season. However, I believe even with what he's done so far this season, the MVP is a quarterback award. So he probably wouldn't win it. But if we were talking about Offensive Player of the Year, 100%. I know it's only 4 weeks in, but Christian McCaffrey right now is the Offensive Player of the Year, and he's been playing outstanding. And the Niners have been able to lean on him heavily, which is really great because when he was traded there, everybody was worried whether or not he'd be an injury risk. And so far, with that history, the offensive line has really kept him healthy, and he's been dominating.
Yeah, I think if he keeps up this pace, I think he certainly should be getting MVP votes. But it's like really good odds. His odds are currently plus 1,800, with Josh Allen being the shortest odds at plus 325, and then 2 at plus 500. But I believe that he really should, if this pace continues, get serious consideration for the MVP award.
100% agree. Moving over to the MLB playoffs, as they are set to get underway tomorrow, as every playoff team and position are in place. The American League was scrambled in Game 162 as the Rangers lost, leaving the door wide open for the Astros to take the AL West title. Who do you think will represent the AL in the World Series?
I'm going with the Tampa Bay Rays. Their roster is just constructed so well. Yandy Diaz, batting champion. I know they lost Wander Franco, but Brandon Lau's so good. so many players in the outfield, the pitching staff. Even without McClanahan, you have Glasnow. They add Savali at the deadline. This team is so well constructed, and I personally don't like the Orioles. I think they're too young. Without no experience is going to hurt them, and I just don't think the Astros have it in them this year.
You know, I agree about the Astros, but I do think that the Orioles, the #1 seed Orioles in the American League, can make it to the World Series this year. And they're just such a fun team to watch, and I think that's why it's so alluring to want to pick them to go all the way to the dance. But right now, this great young core of players on both sides of the ball have played in unison the entire season and played great, and it'd just be a lot of fun to see them go to the World Series and possibly win it.
In the National League, the Marlins and Diamondbacks grabbed the final 2 wildcard spots in the 4-team race that included the Cubs and Reds. Ben, which squad on the NL side is making it to the World Series?
I mean, I think it's a pretty easy choice right now. The Braves, with probably the best lineup in the league, maybe in the last 50 years we've seen this lineup with the Braves. Ronald Acuna, Matt Olson, Austin Riley, Ozzie Albies, and even more. This lineup has been absolutely terrorizing opposing pitching staffs for all 162 games, no breaks at all. Just been absolutely fantastic. And while the rotation does bring up a few questions, as they had a 4.14 ERA, their entire staff had an ERA over 4. That's a little bit of a question mark there to see what they can do in short series. But I think the offense will be able to carry them, and because that's what they've done in the regular season, and it'll just carry over into the postseason.
Though I don't think you're wrong, I do think the Dodgers probably have the second best chance of making it there. The middle of their lineup, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Will Smith, are so good, so dangerous. Betts and Freeman were MVP favorites, and their pitching staff isn't bad, though they have dealing with some injuries. It's definitely between the Dodgers and the Braves. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Ben will be joined by one of our producers, Alex Brooks, here on WTOP 10.
Welcome back to Major Discussion.
Did you know dragging chains can spark a wildfire?
Only you can prevent wildfires.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move. So I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
Hey there, I'm Al Roker, class of 76. Yes, way back in 76. Back when the earth was cooling. You're watching WTOP.
Welcome back to Stick to Sports. Joining me now is Alex Brooks, one of our producers. Alex, what do you have for us tonight?
Thanks, Ben. Heading to the City of Angels, the Los Angeles Rams might have found a new upcoming star with the rise of wide receiver Puka Nacua. Puka has started red hot so far this season with over 100 yards receiving in 3 out of the 4 games while scoring his first touchdown this past game. Ben, with Cooper Kupp participating in practice this week, will Puka continue to produce?
I think he will. I think Kupp will slot back into that wide receiver 1 role, of course, because he's Cooper Kupp, and right now that connection with Stafford is unbreakable. But Nakua has proven to be a very reliable receiver, and when defenses start to shift back to having to defend Kupp on different routes, Nakua is going to get open again because he's going to get the second and third cornerback options from opposing defenses, and I think that's going to be a mistake, and Nakua is going to be able to capitalize on it.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, you see his production. I mean, he's been over 100 yards in 3 out of the 4 games. I mean, he has just been dominating on all facets. He's second in receiving yards at 501, just behind none other than Justin Jefferson. So he's making a real impact right now as only a rookie wide receiver. And he's already making the case, I'm telling you, Ben, for Offensive Rookie of the Year. But we are going to move on as the Cincinnati Bengals have not met their expectations so far, as Joe Burrow has just been struggling so far this season, starting 1-3 after a 27-3 loss to the Tennessee Titans. Joe Burrow is still dealing with a calf injury and is not looking 100%. With T. Higgins sidelined due to a rib injury, Ben, is it time to hit the panic button if you're the Bengals?
You know, losing 27-3 to a questionable Titans team so far this season is not a good look for the Bengals. However, I don't think it is quite time to push the panic button yet. I think that this Bengals team still has a ton of stars. They still have Jamar Chase, and we heard him voice his displeasure post-game after this game versus Tennessee. But I think that they will get it clicking. I think right now Joe Burrow just needs to continue to rest weekly. But right now, if they start to struggle and they can't win these games from week 5 to week 8, some games that are easier and some games that are more against more playoff caliber teams, if they can't win these games, it might be time for a reset.
Right. Well, I'm going the other way because I feel like it's time to hit the panic button. I mean, you should have sat Joe Burrow these first 3 games and got him healthy. That is your quarterback. That's someone who you really need to protect, and you don't really have the offensive line to protect them. So it's really panic time for the Bengals. But with week 4 almost in the books, the Carolina Panthers and the Chicago Bears are the only winless teams left in the NFL. The Panthers lost a close game to the Vikings, while their defense made it interesting for the Bears. The Broncos overcame a 28-7 deficit to defeat Chicago 31-28. Ben, with both teams at 0-4, which team do you see turning it around?
I think it's going to be really difficult for both teams to turn it around. They both have not looked great to start this season, but if I had to choose one, the Bears looked much better in the first half of their last game this week 4 than the Panthers did, and I think that's going to be a telltale sign of where each team is at. Because while I do think Bryce Young is a great talent and will be perfect for Carolina once he gets more options around him, right now the Bears are going to be the better team and they will turn around. I think the Bears will probably end up going 5-12, while the Panthers will probably finish 3-14.
Well, I got to disagree with you, Ben, once again, because I just feel like this Panthers team so far, besides the game against the Falcons in week 1, I feel like they have been more competitive against their opponents than the Bears. I mean, the last game against the Chiefs, they got blown out. So I'm picking the Panthers here.
We're going to take a quick break here on Stick to Sports. Thanks once again to Alex for the fast break. And when we come back, Brian, Alex, and I will head into extra innings. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Stick to Sports on WTOP 10.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
Shine on that boy.
Look at the bling. Look at do we got a diamond tester on? Yeah, that's getting bad. Yep.
10 out of 10 recommend on Yelp.
score, we're going to the playoffs.
I can't believe I missed that.
Every time I'm buzzed, I spend too much time on my phone.
What? I should take your phone away.
No. I'll call for a ride.
Hey, why does my face look like that?
I'm playing with these new face filters.
Okay, you know what? Yep, that's mine.
But I need that back.
No.
Kevin!
Welcome back to Stick to Sports. Now let's get ready for another edition of Extra Innings. Ben, Brian, let's get right into this. So we're going to start off with the Texas Rangers versus the Tampa Bay Rays in the opening series of the playoffs. I'll start with you, Ben.
I think it's going to be really interesting. I think the Rangers have looked not great towards the end of the season, but also I don't have full faith in the Rays team with the amount of injuries and missing players that they have on their roster. So I think I'm going to go with the Rangers in 3 games.
Personally, I'm going with the Rays in 3. I think, like I said earlier, they're going to go to the World Series this year. The better team, good pitching, will shut down a kind of inexperienced Rangers team.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, Brian. Every time they go into the postseason, they're always an underdog, and they always get it out. I'm taking Rays in 3. But now we are going to move over to the NL, so it's going to be the Marlins versus the Phillies. I'll start off with you, Brian. Who are you going with?
I'm taking the Phillies at -210. The Phillies are a really good team. Bryce Harper, Nick Castillo has so much veteran experience. They were to the playoffs last year. They have this momentum now, and the Marlins are just very inexperienced. That's my big thing in the MLB playoffs. Inexperience is going to kill them.
And as much as I really like the Marlins, I'm going to go with the Phillies as well. I like their veteran experience. I love Bryce Harper, and I love what he does in the playoffs. Go with the Phillies.
Well, boys, it's going to be a red October because I'm going with the Phillies as well. So we're going to move over to some college football as Texas will face off against Oklahoma. I know we got a big Oklahoma guy over here, but I'm going to start off with Ben. Who are you taking in this game?
I'm going to go Texas -6.5. I think that they're the better team. They're the higher rank, and their offense has just been very explosive so far this season. So I'm going to take Texas in this one.
Yeah, I know I'm a big Oklahoma fan. Dylan Gabriel has looked pretty good this year. Red River rivalry, but I got to go Texas -6.5. They're number 3 ranked. They are so good. Quinn Ewers is going to go really well in this game.
Yeah, I'll agree. I'm going to say Texas as well at 6.5. But we are going to go over to some NFL as the Dallas Cowboys are going to face off against the red-hot 4-0 San Francisco 49ers on Sunday Night Football. So I'll give it to Brian. Who are you going to take in this game?
I'm going to go with the Niners at -3.5. They are so good. That offense is so explosive. The Cowboys defense is good, but 3.5, I think it's probably going to be 4 or to a touchdown.
I'm going to go with the Cowboys in this one. I'm sure it's not a surprise to anybody here on this panel. I'm going with the Cowboys in this one. I think their defense is going to swarm Brock Purdy, and I think that's going to be just a big factor in how the 49ers offense will run.
As an Eagles fan, I don't really get a win in this one, but I'll take the 49ers over the Cowboys. And we're going to move to our last one of extra innings. It's going to be the Jaguars versus the Bills in London. So, Ben, have you started off?
I think this is a pretty easy choice. I think the Buffalo Bills will be the one to come away victorious. Although Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars won against the Falcons in London, the Bills are not the Falcons, and I think that the Bills offense is going to once again put up a monstrous amount of points.
Yeah, I agree. Bills -5.5 is a complete lock. I'd even put that up to maybe Bills -7 or 8.5. Bills offense looked so good last week versus a better Dolphins team than the Jaguars.
Is no one really trusting the Jaguars to go 2-0 in London? Well, I'm not going to either, so I'm going to take the Bills over the Jaguars. They're just looking too hot right now. And that is going to do it for extra innings, guys.
First extra innings. That's going to do it for us here on Stick to Sports for the first episode. Stick with us next week at Monday at 10:30 here on